ermee. En daarom mogen we sloepen bijten en jungle van bamboe.
Ja, ja.
Echt. Ja. Jij?
Nou, daar ik niet zo van. Lekker een beetje shoppen, een beetje zwemmen gewoon.
Ja. En wanneer ben je dan aangekomen?
Woensdag.
Oké. Wat ga je nog doen?
Ik ga overmorgen dan gaan maken.
Okay, this is the bridge over the River Kwai, also known as the Bridge Over Troubled Water. And apparently it's kind of famous because of it's part of a stretch of railroad that was built by prisoners of war of the Japanese during World War II, and this stretch of railway was apparently a critical stretch for the Japanese to extract oil from Burma and get it down to the Thailand Gulf, where they could then ship it to Japan or wherever they needed, and basically provided the fuel for their war machine. And many thousands of people, prisoners of war, died while constructing this railroad. And for some reason this bridge is kind of one of the tourist spots that shows the section of railroad called the River Kwai down below. And this is the bridge over troubled water. I'm just gonna repeat some of the history that we learned on our trip over here. We came from Bangkok in a big tour bus where there was a travel guide, and he was giving us some history about everything. Basically, when Japan was starting their takeover of Southeast Asia, they knew they couldn't attack very much of Asia, especially the Philippines, because the US would get involved, and they didn't want the US involved because the US was very powerful, of course. And they needed their oil from Burma, also called Myanmar, but they couldn't really start attacking the neighboring countries, especially the Philippines, because I think the Philippines were under US control or US territory at that point or something like that. So anyway, they knew, and they had to build this railroad, which was 400 and some kilometers from Burma down to the Gulf of Thailand. Our tour guide said they needed to build it in 1 year in order for them to get the oil they needed in the amount of time. So anyway, to prevent US interaction and problems as the Japanese started their takeover of Southeast Asia, the Japanese needed to disable the US Navy, and they thought that if they could, that would buy them about a year to 18 months time, that they could establish themselves in Southeast Asia region and fortify their military positions here, and of course get this railroad done and all that stuff. So that is why they attacked Pearl Harbor, the Japanese, and they hoped that by attacking Pearl Harbor around Christmas time, when many of the ships were docked there, and the sailors were off enjoying some holiday time, that they could disable the American Navy for the time required that they could establish their bases and fortify Southeast Asia. What they didn't anticipate was that instead of disabling the US Navy for a year or longer, as they hoped, that America was able to respond in about 3 months' time, and to counter, engage in war with our Navy in 3 months' time, which of course we know how that ended for the Japanese. We were able to respond and retaliate, and then basically this bridge, by the time this bridge was completed to supply oil and the needed gasoline, Japan was already starting to get defeated in some of the islands and the countries in Southeast Asia by the US, and so by the time it was completed, it really didn't go very far to help their war efforts. And so that's kind of what I remember from the history lesson that our tour guide gave. For the history people, they may be able to correct my facts or whatever, but it was kind of interesting. You know, you don't really care much about a bridge, just how it is, but with the history behind it. And they said, I don't know, over 100,000 POWs died in the construction of this railway because of, I guess, the harsh conditions. It was all very rugged terrain, and they were just out here and probably pushed to exhaustion, I'd imagine, to complete such a long stretch of railroad in such a short amount of time. And so that's why this whole railroad's called the Death Railway. That's its nickname, the Death Railway, because of how many POWs and whatnot died in the construction of it. So that's the history lesson for today.
And when we did everything back to this now, back to the Bangkok City. One time, back to this one. We just finished everything.
So this is the war cemetery, as you read on the sign, containing over 6,000 POWs that died in the construction of the Death Railway. And interesting, one of our tour guide said some of these, I think all these stones here, the people are buried vertically and instead of laid down. I really didn't understand why. I'm not sure he explained it much. More space, I guess, I don't know. A very well-kept cemetery.
hit them when they are not working. Yeah, like this is the hair. Yeah, this is the meaning. But usually the different meaning have more meaning in the law, but I can explain it. So when they take the law, they can do and tell the king. Yeah. So take a look this place. You would like to take a photo together, and you go back home. You can tell your family how for Hellfire Park. Yeah, I can do for you. Family by family. Yeah. I just charge you for free. Just give me the camera. Yeah, I'm super the problem. Can you go off the right hand? My right hand.
This is part of what is called Hellfire Pass, where many POWs and I guess hired people that were basically treated as POWs, slaves, whatever, they cut away all this rock way up there. I'd say we're probably 40 feet, no, maybe 30, 35 feet, maybe 40, I don't know, from that top right there. And this wall was cut out by chisel and dynamite. So no machinery. Pounding a chisel or a drill, but it wasn't a mechanical drill. It was some guy holding a I don't know, a stake that was sledgehammered into the rock, and they'd drop dynamite down and blow it away. So yeah, part of the challenges of building this railroad, this section is called Hellfire Pass.